Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. And I've put together the top 7 key market drivers I look at when analyzing a real estate market. Go to sethferguson.org to download your free copy. Our guest today got her start as a real estate investor, saving her tips while working as a bartender. She's a best-selling author, speaker, and entrepreneur. Melanie Bajrovic is the wealthy barmaid. Melanie, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, really looking forward to this, especially another Canadian. It's always nice to have another Canuck on the show so my Canadian accent doesn't stand out too much. So we're really looking forward to this. So let's jump right in and talk about your real estate goals right now and where you want to take real estate.
Oh my gosh. Real estate's my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Obviously, as is very obvious in my books, in my, my website, on everything I do and what I teach. So with real estate, essentially for me, I love long-term buy and holds. For me, it's more of a security thing. I love thinking about using it for pension because I've been self-employed my entire life, just about. So I'm not looking forward to nothing's going to help me in my later years. So I use my real estate for those purposes, or at least that's how I view it now. And that's how I started with that concept. So my goal is just to continuously, I save, I buy, I refinance, I buy, whatever the case may be, however I can do it, I just want to keep building and building and building, growing my portfolio. And at this time right now, I'm only doing single family homes and commercial properties. So I have both. I love both. Very different fields, 2 totally different spaces, but both are great in their own regard. So I hope that answers your question. I just want to continue accumulating.
Yeah. And do you set targets for yourself? Because I know some people say, hey, I want to acquire another 10 properties this year. Like, do you do targets like that?
Absolutely. I'm constantly writing down my goals. I actually just found a few books from a couple years ago, and I'm like, geez, where am I at this point now? Did I get to those levels that I was looking to do? So absolutely. I write down goals. You have to, or else you're not really going to get anywhere. You'll just sit stagnant. You'll think, oh yeah, one day I'm going to get there. Sure, I'd like to have that, but it won't happen unless you have goals and you're actually working towards them. So to answer your question, yes, I set targets and I write down my goals consistently.
Yeah. So what are you looking to do in 2019? I know when we're recording this, we're almost we're past halfway, but what was your target for this year?
For this next year, I'm looking to buy at least 2 more single family homes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And what was it about the single family? Because you mentioned you have commercial and single family. What attracted you to single family in the first place?
Many reasons. Appreciation, especially in Canada, it's fairly stable. It's been very stable in my neck of the woods. And actually, though, in the last little while, we've had a huge appreciation increase. So that's been lovely for us who own properties. They're my favorite to rent out. I love the tenants for single family homes. I've dabbled with the commercial and residential on top, your mixed use, but these people, or multi-units, or they're 1 bedroom, things like that. But I find them very transitional. So people are it's just a quick thing, right? It's a divorce, it's a breakup, it's whatever. They went bankrupt, whatever the case may be. They're very transitional. So you're constantly working. And I'm personally still doing all of my own property management. So that's a big job. And I have businesses and I run businesses too. So I'm busy. I just find the turnover is huge. The margins might be higher actually overall because of volume, and you only have 1 roof and you only have 1 of everything to fix. But I love the single family homes because they stay for a really long time, especially when I pick good ones. And I'm very picky, and my application process is like foolproof. And, I don't know, they treat my home super duper well. They mow the lawn, they do the driveway, they're hedging. I had my other tenant over just the other day signing for another year. He's like, oh my God, we want to stay for 5 more years. We love it here. And plus I fixed this and I fixed that. And I went to Home Depot and I just fixed, you have people like that who really care about your properties because those are like your babies in a way. And so I love it for that purpose. And if you have to sell in a pinch, let's say, not even in a pinch, but residential is a lot easier to sell than any type of commercial because you have more buyers, right? Yeah. Costs are a little less going in, for depending, with appraisals and environmental assessments and all these other kinds of things, legal fees that you have to pay with commercial. Residential is a little cheaper and it appreciates almost the same. So I just love many reasons why I love these single family homes.
Yeah. And on the flip side, at what point did you start looking at commercial as an asset that you'd like to work in?
So I was 22 when I bought my first house, and it was by the time I was 27. So 5 years later is when I purchased my first commercial property. Scariest thing ever, but also the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm so happy and proud that I made that transition.
Yeah. And was it like a shopping, like what sort of property was it?
So it's also like a freestanding building, and it was a restaurant bar. I'm obviously very familiar with that industry. So I purchased it because I wanted to start my own restaurant bar in it. And I mean, just coming from a family and coming from my background where nobody rented, nobody leased things. It was just like you own everything. So to me, I wouldn't even fathom like, oh, let's go find a place and lease it out and do your bar there. So no, I had to own the property. So, it was a big hunt for that. But that was really the purpose. It was kind of like, okay, I'm ready to start my own business in this industry instead of working for others. And I want to own the property. So I had, like 2 birds, 1 stone, double whammy. And it worked out great. So I'm my own landlord and tenant.
Oh, awesome. And, you mentioned you were 22 when you bought your first property. And I alluded to it in your introduction, you were saving your tips. Most people in their early 20s are thinking about other things, besides real estate. What was it that got real estate stuck in your head?
I don't know if it was real estate specifically why I was such a saver in the very, very beginning. If we're going to go back when I'm 18, 19, serving tables. It was more just, my mom always encouraged me to save. She always said, just give me she kept my paychecks. Mind you, they didn't even pay me until, a long, long, long time later. So I was working for free. But I would just like give her the money, and in your head, it's like the money's gone. It's just not even there. I still do that to this day with my business. Like, as cash is coming in, whatever, they go in separate envelopes for everywhere they're supposed to go. I pretend it's not there. It's just, and you work with the rest, and you pay everything, all your bills with the rest. So I just was a big saver. Once it got to a certain point, it was my father who recommended, like, hey, he knew. Like, you're a kid, in a way, you're going to spend this money, even though I had great work ethic, thanks to my grandparents, they're immigrants, and my own parents, which I describe all in my book. So I just worked a ton. I had all this money, and it was really my father who was kind of like, I really think you should probably buy a house. They always kind of had this thing in their heads, like, no matter, your money's going to get spent one way or another. You never know what it is, but a mortgage, like, you're going to pay your mortgage. You're going to find a way to pay your mortgage no matter what. So it's best to have real estate. And that's just kind of what stuck. So I hadn't technically planned on it when I was in my early, 18, 19, 20, 21. But then I had a bunch saved up, and it was time to utilize that money. And it was really my family who encouraged me, hey, real estate's probably the best place that you should put that money. Yeah. That's how it happened. And I knew that it was great. I wasn't too scared, luckily. Of course, I was a little scared, by myself. But knowing that my whole family has kind of been in it, I roughly knew that unless the market crashed overnight, there's not much that you should be scared of, right? You can control almost every other component of it. So I was okay to do it.
Yeah.
And And yeah, I was saving tips. I wasn't going out. I was working nonstop. And then especially once the bug came in, like, okay, you got this money, let's buy a house or put it in real estate. Then I wanted to work more. Then I wanted another one and another one and another one. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
didn't have much party time.
yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because most people, they'll buy, their principal residence and then they stop and they don't want to go ahead and acquire more properties. Once you close on the first one, was it automatic where you said, hey, now I want to move on to the next one, or did it take some time? What was your thought process?
It took me a little bit of time. I'm young. I'm sitting in there when the woman's telling you everything about the mortgage. You're signing all these papers. I had no clue what was going on. This is why I always encourage people, like, you're never going to be ready. Or like people talk about having children. You're never going to be ready. It's one of those things you just do. You learn as you go. So, I was very intimidated and whatnot. I didn't know in the office as I'm signing all this stuff what it really was, but I studied the crap out of it. That's just who I am. So afterward, now I'm like, okay, that's what that is, this, that. So no longer was there things, because that's what scares people for the most part, is they're just don't know. When you don't have the knowledge or the information, that's what gives you fear. So I studied it up. I'm good to go. It was brand new, so I got this home. I wanted to renovate it. I bought it from a family under market value, which is tip number one. They hadn't renovated it in probably, 50 years. So it needed some work. So that was first on my mind, like, okay, I want to renovate it. And there's things now going back I wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have put in really good hardwood floors. I wouldn't have put like the best of the best kind of stuff. No problem. But so through that process, and that was months, a few months. And no, right away. So I rented it out once I realized, oh my gosh, like I'm renting this out, but my payments are only this much and I'm making that much more. That's when it kind of hit, like, oh, this is how this works. And if you get more and more and more and more, right, all this extra profit, people live off of this kind of thing. I'm not a flipper. So, people do that as a thing. Like I told you, I'm a buy and hold long-term, and you profit every month so that's really where it came from, when I thought, there's the key. Now I want to buy more and more.
Yeah. Hey, gotcha. And right now, as a buy and hold investor, what would you say is your number one challenge with your business?
The only challenge I find is just doing massive due diligence on your tenants. That's my biggest challenge. That would be it. Everything else is, you got a system, you got people who do your repairs, there's not much else that's scary. There's not much challenges. You fix whatever needs breaking. You have to treat it like a business too. And here's another problem. I see it all day, every day, all around me. People coming from wherever, and immigrants, and regardless where, they're buying, if they can afford it, they buy a home, they want to rent it out, but they don't realize that this is a business. So people are having landlord problems all over the place. And I hear constant horror stories. So it's a business. So when my tenant calls me and says, XYZ's broken, or this needs fixing, like, I'm on it immediately. By end of day, most of the time, there's somebody there ready to fix it, or whatever the case. But you want to make them feel comfortable. You want to make them feel happy. You want to be friendly. You don't have to be best friends. I send them gift baskets for, Thanksgiving, Christmas, these kinds of things. And they treat my properties well. So none of that's an issue. It's just really in the very beginning, how you do your application process, all your due diligence, your background checks, your credit checks, all that stuff that needs to be done, employment verification, pay stubs, the whole bit, whatever you can get. That's the most challenging part, the most time-consuming part, I would say.
Yeah, and especially in the province of Ontario, once a tenant moves in, it's very tough to get them out. So it's the landlord-tenant laws are very pro-tenant here.
Absolutely, yeah. We as landlords don't have as many rights.
It's I always say it's the total opposite of Texas. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So, talking about treating real estate as a business, creating a business is all about systems. So have you developed any routines, ritual systems that have helped make you successful?
With my current properties, you mean? Like
yourself as an investor and with your portfolio?
Well, absolutely. For example, there's a system for how I will choose a tenant or not, and how I do the application process, how I do the interviewing process. Absolutely, I have systems for that. I have systems for when I go through a house and what I'm looking for. I have a system for, like we just said, buying under market value. You got to know kind of how to do that, or what the situation is. I don't want to say you take advantage of a situation, but you can recognize an opportunity. If there's a divorce, you have better chances that they're just going to settle on whatever because they're trying to move on. If there's a death in the family, if there's, and then the siblings are looking. So I look for things like that. And I have a bunch of, checklists and all that stuff in my program that I use, to systemize the process to make it foolproof. In my business, exact same thing. I see people doing the same business that I'm doing, but they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off because they don't have a system. Like I have things written down, and we do it either weekly or monthly instead of these people are running around doing things daily. So yeah, I have checklists. I have systems that now it's been a long time. I mean, well, we're only 11 years after I bought that first property. And I feel good about it. There's a flow. And when I look to buy new properties and negotiating rates with the bank, there's another thing, just little tidbits like that have really helped me over the years, and I've become savvier.
Yeah. And especially in the single family space, a lot of people will hit a plateau where, they almost kind of max out. Did that ever happen to you? And if so, how did you break through that?
No, I never plateaued. I always, like I told you, I always want to increase, and I'm still very young and I'm ready to rock and roll. I have no problem doing all the work now because I'm going to be able to retire early. I even live better now than people do after retirement, or after, like people say most people will make their money between their 40s and 50s, like the bulk of it. And then in their 60s, they kind of chill and have more time to do the stuff. I've been able to do that at a young age. But hitting a plateau, no, I still want more. I want more all the time. I want to continuously purchase. It's just a matter of getting mortgages. Sometimes it's difficult to get financed. Your income has to be huge in order to support this many homes, unless you're doing private lenders, but then you're paying more. And when you're buying and holding, I like to stick with conventional lenders as much as I can because their rates are the best, and I'm going to have it for. But you can also jump in with a private lender and then refi a year or two later and go with a conventional bank. So that would be the only hiccup. Sometimes it's just a little more difficult to get a mortgage, or I like to save up a ton of money and then use that. So that takes time, sometimes in between, and sometimes whatever life happens and you got to use it elsewhere, or for your business, you want to grow. And like I did a whack of renovations in my own business. So, that took a huge chunk out of the savings. So that would be the only sort of hiccup. But no, there hasn't been a time where, I'm scared to move forward or don't want to move forward or hit a plateau thinking like, yeah, I'm done. A lot of people, though, I have heard a lot of people do that because they have a horrible experience, a horrible tenant experience or something like that. But it hasn't happened to me.
Yeah. So let's move over to a Keystone deal. So is there a deal that stands out that made a big impact on you and your business?
Well, kind of like we've been talking about, I think that first deal was the biggest because I'm going in complete newbie, don't know what's going on, but I did it anyway. And it changed my life because that's what started all of this, right? Who knows where I'd be? I could still just be bartending somewhere and making what I'm making and have no assets. So I think it was really that first deal. And like I said, I got it under market value, about $7,000 less than they were asking at the time, which is great. Or for me, at least at the time, I thought that was really good. Prices were really low here in where I live at that time as well. So that was great. So yeah, I would say it was my first property.
Yeah. And what potential did you see in the property? So, when this came across your path, what made you act on this one?
It was an estate sale. So right off the hop, I mean, I looked at hundreds, don't get me wrong. I really did my research. I looked at a ton of them, but this was an estate sale. So these, daughters and sons of the family, they were trying to get rid of it. They were trying to offload it as quickly as possible. They took a lower offer. They accepted right away. Of course, I had my conditions for financing and home inspection there, but I saw that as an opportunity immediately. Second of all, I could see that I would add value. I could add value. This house needed so much work, and it's just the neighborhood's incredible. The location's incredible. The people, it's just a wonderful place to be. And location, as we know, is very, very important. And I knew that if I just put in some elbow grease and plus hire some people, do some renovations, I knew that this place was going to appreciate, and I was going to rent it out either way. So I knew I was going to make money one way or another, but that's where I could tell that this was a place where I'm going to make more than what I'm going to pay here off this. And I can do that by my own, sweat equity.
Gotcha. And once you did those renovations, brought it back up to standard, did you move to do a refi pretty quick, or did that come later?
That came later. So I had tenants in here for a bit, even prior. I rented it out immediately, and then I did renovations after those first tenants left. So it was my first experience there. And it was about just under 5 years later. 5 years later, I had a really great rate. It was like 2.9%. It was lovely.
I'll just interject for the Americans. This is a balloon payment probably after 5 years. It's not like a 30-year term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we, after that, 5 years later, there was a lot of appreciation there. Like it went up in this area very quickly. So, I was able to, I did a refinance then at a 70% loan to value because it's a rental, they won't go 80 plus. And I was able to get about $70,000 from that in 5 years. That again was a first, going, what just happened here? Like, you're giving me 70 grand. I did nothing. Like, this house just sat there. Sure, I did a bit of renovations, but anyway, the appraisal was, the market value went up, and obviously mortgage is consistently going down. So, and then I used that money for the next one, and then the next one, and I did it on other rental properties, the refi thing, and half of that plus money saved is what got me to my commercial property, which, now has really doubled my portfolio and net worth, and so yes, I refied, but I waited about 5 years. I didn't need it at the time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most powerful things in real estate, where you're able to reuse your capital over and over again to acquire the next property, and basically be in a property for none of your own initial capital.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. It almost feels like money's coming out of nowhere.
That's right.
It just shows up, and the bank gives you, here's a check for 70 grand. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
It's one of the best top benefits of real estate.
Yeah, 100%. You've mentioned tenants and the importance of profiling and vetting your tenants quite a bit. Do you have a couple tips? Let's say somebody's listening and they're brand new and they're about to close on their first property. What sort of tips would you give somebody for vetting tenants?
Oh, yeah. The list goes on. I'm big on this because I got screwed, excuse my language. And it only took once. I got burned really bad. So I'm extremely vigilant now. So first and foremost, once you put your ads up, I ask for certain things. They must give me those things before I even waste time talking to people, inviting them to walk through the house, because it could be a real waste of time. So I make sure, like, who's all moving in, how many people, what's the employment status of everybody, stuff like that. Let me know, how long are you looking to move in, what move-in date. So once I know all that information and it sounds like, okay, they have jobs, or it's a good job and they want to stay long-term, that's when I invite them in for a viewing. And because you get so many people, you want to try to make it all in the same day, same time. And you just so you're not consistently running around. So at that point, then I give them all a beautiful application form, and I can give it to you, so you can give to your audience if it helps.
Oh yeah,
But
we can put a link right down below the video.
great.
Yeah.
It's very thorough. It asks a lot of questions that you wouldn't really understand why, like, what lenders do you have out there? Which banks are you with? How much do you have in your savings checkings account? Do you even have a savings checking account? Who's your lawyer? So you start to see like who these people are based on, do you have car loans? Do you have this? Do you have that? So the application itself is very thorough. Then once you get through the vetting process, I make them, I do employment verification. So whatever they give me, I don't always trust that it's true. So regardless of what they give me, they tell me the company name, I call the company. I don't call who they told me to call. I call the company, I say, and I try to get through to who it really should be. And sometimes it's very legitimate that they've given me. Sometimes, it's complete BS. So I do that. I ask for pay stubs for the last, if they can give me 8 weeks, great. Because that's how you can really tell. An employer, if you're a buddy or something, that's a friend, they can write you a letter saying, oh yes, they make this much, they work this many hours a week, blah, blah, blah. Well, show me pay stubs, no problem. Even, like bank account statements, I've had that. I've had some of my tenants show me that. What else do I do? Background check is a must. Credit check is a must. And then you got to make sure that they'll be able to put utilities in their name. So before anything happens, before they move into my properties, I make sure that they have called every single utility provider and have set it up for whichever date we've discussed. And I call, make sure that they've called, make sure that what date is it changing on? Okay, great. Obviously, first and last month's rent need to be 110%. There's no excuses for that whatsoever. There's people who've been doing this for a long time, and I don't want to blame the poor guy, even my father, but he's so nice. He would, someone would give them their story, and that's why they can't give him the full thing, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, 2 days later, it never comes. And then he's constantly in that court where he's trying to evict tenants. So you don't listen to that. You take your full first and last. They have to have all that. And then when they move in, I do more checks. I again call the utilities. Hi, did it go in their name? Because I've had it happen where the tenants called back and said, no, we're not living here. Move it back in her name. And I didn't check for a long time, and all that stuff was on my name, and I wasn't getting the bills. So now I'm defaulting in a way, right? I'm not paying the bills, and they're supposed to be. So, even when they come to your house, you see what they look like. You see what their car looks like. Is it clean? Are they neat? Try to drive by where they currently say they're living. Obviously, calling the landlords is a must too. But that's another one where it could be a buddy, a friend, or somebody. So you got to be a bit of a detective. You have to do the best you can, the most due diligence. Just do not skip that part.
Yeah.
Best advice I would give. Don't skip that part.
Yeah. No, those are some excellent tips to help somebody out to going through that. And it's so important, like you said.
Yes, absolutely. I hope they take away. I hope that's a good takeaway for your audience.
100%. So how has getting into real estate, because I know you got in at an early age, what sort of impact has it had on you and your lifestyle?
It's been phenomenal, first of all. So every year, not only my net worth is growing consistently, I have these assets that I can use as collateral to buy more things. I feel free. There's more money. I travel all the time. So you asked me in the beginning, where are you located? Niagara. Yes, but I'm not here a lot. We have winter like 7 months of year.
Yeah.
It's allowed me to do things like that. I mean, that's not possible, when you have a job, when you have an employer, unless you have some remote job. But either way, it gives me that option. It gives me the money to do that, the security, even if it's just, in my own head. I have this for long term, and I'm building equity day after day after day. These people are paying down my mortgage. My equity's going up. And I'm just feeling more and more confident about my future and about retirement. It's just a matter of time now. How much do I want per month, so I can fully retire, not do anything, completely passive. How many more, homes do I need, or commercial properties, whatever it is. And, that's what just I'm underway working on now in order to my goal. I'm going to retire before 40, but I'm already living a life that I can do whatever I want. I can go out whenever I want. I go out for dinner. I love to cook, but I love going out for dinner. So I do that 5 days, 6 days out of 7. I don't look at price tags. That's what it has afforded me to do. It feels like freedom. And to me, I think we are all freedom chasers, right? This is, at least for me, but I know a lot of people too, like, I am just after freedom.
Yeah.
And that is what real estate has truly given me and will continue to give me.
Yeah. And let's look ahead 10 years. So where do you see yourself in a decade with your real estate portfolio?
Well, definitely double, triple what it is now. And I would be living off 100%, because right now I still run my business and my business makes great money. So that helps a lot too. But I would be fully living off of my passive income, just by residential family homes, even with 1 commercial property, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 5 if I'm in the mood, if I can, again, with the banks and stuff. But I would do private. But yeah, it would like double or triple my portfolio, and I'd be living completely passively.
Yeah.
The restaurant business, by the way, is a grind, so nobody really wants to be in it forever. Trust me.
Yeah. We've had. Do you know Jake and Gino?
No.
No. They used to be involved in the restaurant business, and they got out as soon as real estate came along.
There you go. See, yep. My coach, my mentor of many, many years, same thing in the restaurant industry his whole life. But and the way we talk, it's like, man, everybody in. We're just trying to get the F out.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a real grind. So, but we're young now. That's just my mentality. Now is time to hustle. Now is the time just to bust it out so I can live better later. I put in the time. I put in, like I told you, from the youngest age. I wasn't going out. I wasn't partying. I wasn't the typical college student. I didn't do the St. Patrick's Days and the Halloweens and the whatever. I was always working. And then I kind of, I had the freedom to take some breaks. So for a few years, I've been traveling a ton, doing whatever I feel like, great. And I still think, I got a few years left in me. I'm going to hustle it out, make more money, buy a few more things. And then I'm going to use all those for collateral to buy more. And then eventually live completely passively.
Nice. So, Melanie, you mentioned your book. So if somebody's looking to get the book, get in touch with you, learn more about what you're doing, where can they find you?
Absolutely. I happen to have one sitting right next to me. I was reading it again.
Nice.
So the book is called The Wealthy Barmaid. That's kind of my pseudo brand name. And they can find me online at thewealthybarmaid.com or melaniebajrovic.com. Same thing. It'll get you to the same place. I'm on Facebook, The Wealthy Barmaid. I'm on Instagram, Wealthy Barmaid, The Wealthy Barmaid, Twitter, Wealthy Barmaid. Please reach out. Even on my web page, it's very easy to access. You can just send me a message, an email, or anything, or on any of those social media. Please feel free to reach out if anybody has questions.
Yeah, and I have to say, barmaid sounds more exciting than barber.
Yes. So many people thought, it was because of him, but it was going back to the roots of where all this started. Was my article in the Toronto Star that somebody wrote about me. She really named me. It was her. She said wealthy barmaid, RRSPs, blah blah blah. Yeah. But I didn't even come up with it.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Melanie, just want to say thanks so much for taking the time, sharing some really great tips and those stories with us.
Anytime, please call me back anytime. And I hope I've been adding value to your audience, and I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. I appreciate your time too. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.